Howdy, howdy.
Howdy.
Hi, how you doing?
How doing? How doing?
Yeah, go on. What going? What going? Go on. What's happening? What's happening? What's going on?
Oh, well, a lot is happening over here.
Listen to me. What's a place festive?
Nice, my dear.
What's a
Festive.
place active?
Very active.
Active.
It needs to be
And it's
very
not mind that is active. Good
Mm,
mind is active.
good mind is active. Activism at work.
Mhm.
Mhm.
How is JA?
JA is JA-ing.
Okay.
Yes.
Went through.
Yeah.
We're recording this on was it International Dance Day?
Yes, the 29th
International
of April.
The Dance Day.
So we gotta do a little dancey thing.
Dance today. This is it. Like I haven't done
Never on the pasties. I'm kidding. Ha ha ha. Never.
Rock show. Rock show.
Mhm.
Still dance. So right. So we're talking about art as activism.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're not Tallawah. You're saying this week we're just going to go straight upon the thing. All right, here we go. Let me go. If I can only find it.
Hey.
Yeah. So vibes.
Oh,
Oh,
I like it. Good vibes.
So,
yeah.
where we're at, art as activism.
Yeah. I mean,
Not new.
Not new.
It's not new.
No, not at all. But in terms of being called out as a particular thing, like, and also termed artivism, for example. I don't know who coined it first, but it's.
I looked it up.
Uh-huh.
I think it was some Mexican activists.
Okay.
Like what year? It might have been in the 70s.
Okay. That sounds about right in terms of the spirit of things, right? Yeah, terming yourself an artivist. I think it's come back around in terms of cycles.
1997, I found it.
97.
Yeah, Chicano artist in East Los Angeles, known as, and the Zapatistas in Chiapas, Mexico. Artivism. Yeah.
Okay. You said 97 or 77?
97.
Okay.
I would have believed that in the 60s, artivism did a go on big time, you know.
Of course, what's going on, yes.
It's just the naming of it, you know.
It was named, yeah. And naming makes a difference, you know. You can catalog it and, you know, categorize and so on. But I mean, I think one of the biggest things about it, and it can be contentious, is that there are quite a few people who still believe that art must have nothing to do with anything political, social, no commentary, no political position, no agendas. Like, art is just supposed to make us feel nice and you know, be distracted.
But how can that be possible? How can they even think that? I mean, if coming with people.
But for me, the first thing that comes to me is that you know, especially as African people, and it's not all Africa alone, but that's a part of our DNA, who we are. You know, they say there's no art for art's sake in Africa. Everything is functional, it has a purpose it serves, you know. And I'm sure that's not true either. There is art for art's sake in Africa. Everything is everywhere, you know. But for me, when you don't declare that you have an agenda, when you don't deliberately show and or be transparent to say that, you know, these are the things that are in my craw, then that is kind of propaganda. That is when you're throwing stuff out there and tricking people, and also tricking people in the sense that they don't know you have an agenda, you have one, and sometimes you might not even be aware of the agenda you have. It's just that you're a part of a system in which an agenda proliferates, and you are carrying that agenda without even being aware of it. And so even for me, I choose to declare,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that art has function, and I use it as such. I use it in issues of reproductive health and sexuality, issues of blackness and identity, issues of environment, issues around social development, issues around empowerment of people, not just black people, but all people, because we say everybody needs empowerment, you know. And so I declare my hand, I show my hand, I'm transparent as much as possible, because when you're not transparent in that way, you are allowing hidden agendas to drive your art, drive your narrative, and that now is for me, that's unacceptable.
That's interesting. I wonder who is agendaless though, like who
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like people, when people say, you know, you have to always be out of the box. Everybody has a box. It's just some boxes have to be bigger than others. Like the artist box is generally bigger than everybody else's. If you don't have some kind of construct, some kind of framework, some kind of box within which you operate, you are very much on the margins. You might be categorized as insane, that sort of thing. You are antisocial if you break up that box completely, right? So also, who doesn't have an agenda? Even if your agenda is making money, even if your agenda is to make people feel good, that's an agenda.
Yeah.
It just may not be like a political or social agenda, but it is it's something that you want to happen through the thing that you are doing, right?
You know, one of the things it made me think of. I'll tell you the story first, and then I'll relate it. So when I just went into when I went to Berkeley first time, and we had to do English literature. So I was in this English literature class and there was a friend of mine who was from New Zealand, and we were an American author, and me and this guy from New Zealand would rip this book apart every class. Because the guy would make a statement about something and then spend a half paragraph explaining his statement about the thing. Like, who is this written for? Why does this make sense? We can figure it out. The thing that he said before, he didn't need the paragraph to explain it. And I think that probably it annoyed me because I don't feel that I should have to explain everything that I'm presenting and expressing. I think a part of engaging with art is trying to figure out where this is coming from and what it's about. I shouldn't be giving you a translation for everything that I say, do, sing, perform. I think part of your exploration of my art is engaging and being inquisitive and asking questions and finding out stuff about me or about where I was or why this mean that.
Finding out the hidden agendas to Mike, because no, but sometimes the audience is when they interrogate, when they pay attention, when they do their criticism and go through and analyze what it is that you're doing, they can also see what might be a hidden agenda or something that you're not even conscious that you are pushing. You just accept the Eurocentric worldview, and accepting the Eurocentric worldview is an agenda, you know?
Even their own agenda in terms of where they're coming from. Because they will interface with an agenda of their own. And so their interpretation might be different.
Yeah. I think what we are looking towards is a certain kind of self-awareness that an artist needs to have wherever on the spectrum they fall. And the truth is, you may fall on the spectrum for this work in a more activist space and then a non-activist space for another work. Maybe, or it might be that there's a certain level of baseline activism that no matter what you do, it will have that underneath it because that is who you are. So your politics is not separate from your work, right? Whether or not you're being overtly activist. But it's understanding your positionality. I think that's what's happening in this time in terms of the world as well. So people want you to be able to say and acknowledge who you are, what has you up, so that it's not undercover somewhere. People want to see the things out now. Yes, there can still be mystery and they can find out for themselves, but they also want to know that you know. They want to know that you recognize where your own blind spots are, that kind of thing. And the artist, I don't think, is separate from that because they're an artist. I think about like how now with all of the turmoil in the Middle East and America's role, how people are trying to take down or are successively in some ways taking down the reputation of an artist like a Beyonce or a Rihanna, who haven't declared a side or declared a position. And this comes up as well because people are so used now to using the arts to really help bring awareness to things that are hidden, right? That are happening to the vulnerable and so on, like really actively using it now. And when you have somebody with a platform, you're assuming that that person with a platform, because they're an artist like you are, is going to do that too, not realizing that their agenda is probably very different and they are trying to probably do something that you don't know about. Maybe.
And maybe they don't want you to know about it as well, because if they know about it, then you cut them short or you cut off their supply. As like if you remember, I think it was the Dixie Chicks back in the day when they criticized Bush, was it?
Yeah.
And their supply just dried up. You know, people just, you know, were booing them at their rallies and different stuff. And so, you know, they also want to ensure that they're not only artists, remain artists, but they remain they can viably do the things that they want to do, get across messages they want to get across, and just because it's your message doesn't mean it has to be theirs.
But isn't it true, you know, that sometimes things like that can happen with the Dixie Chicks, with Vanessa Redgrave, with Sinead O'Connor, and in the moment when it happens, because you don't have enough information, you can go, yeah, that's weirdy. Why they do that? But then 20 years later, you go, oh my God, they were absolutely right.
They were, for all of those people, those three that you mentioned and more, blacklisted for a particular reason, and it's 20, 30 years later when the zeitgeist is different and people are ready to see everything plain and plainly truth about their leaders and everything, that you see how those people were on the money.
Yeah, even somebody like Prince. I was like the artist formerly named as Prince.
Yes.
When he went against the music establishment and he established, you know, and he was just like, okay, so I can't do my stuff and own my stuff. Then let me change my name. Since you own my name, or the name that I've been calling, let me change my name. And since I can't change my name to something that is another worded name, let me just use a symbol, because you can't own that symbol and me. You know?
Do you know too, when these things were happening in that American space, music space, the way that they were written about was as if, oh, you know, he's quirky, you know, he's always strange, you know, he's just very self-centered, and so he's just doing some strange things. It's just very strange. It was never written about the fact that he, as a person, had a particular positionality, and his note has passed. You find out exactly how much of an activist he really was.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant. Not as an artist, you know, as a person, in terms of the nature of Black America and African American affairs, where he put his money into helping people. And so it's like there is a kind of activism, I think, that happens under the surface, in a kind of way where our ancestors knew you don't share everything. You make something look like something, remember Nancy? But you're doing something else underneath so you can get more done, so that people don't necessarily know. It's a protection.
Because you don't want someone to put a block in the way of what it is that you're trying to do.
It's just like sometimes well, I grew up in Kingston, so I'm not used to it, but it happens in Kingston too, where people have a different name, they have nothing to do with them real name. So you name Tara, but your yard name is Poochie.
Yeah, man.
You know, and you have not really the real name. It's a protection. If people know your name, them can, you know, we don't know how far back it's coming from. So there's that value as well in terms of art being not so much hidden, but art being protected, as you said, Neila, protected, or our advocacy. We're protecting our advocacy art as opposed to blam in your face. So my thing is, I don't mind if you are holding it for yourself to do that. My preference is to share and to let you know where it is that I stand. But I'm not judging you if you are holding on to your thing. It's just that this is my thing, and I don't want you to pretend as if and tell me that art should not have an agenda, because it's in this day and age, if it's that, it's propaganda. No. You can't tell me that. It's just that I know that all art has some sort of agenda.
And
this is activism. Go on.
It has the potential, because I mean, even when you get into activist spaces now, these are spaces that are where they would use art to push certain messages, or to get the point across, or to reach people in a different kind of way. Advocacy and activism are different as well, in the sense that advocacy is a little bit less hands-on than the activism is. Activism is organizing and the pulling people together, and the activism is putting yourself on the line, on the front line in a certain kind of way. The advocacy is more about, okay, I'm not in the position, but I will do all I can where I can to make sure that it's going to go on, right? And I feel like people who are passionate about particular causes, they can and should allow themselves to slide in and out of advocacy and activism, because if you stay forever on the activist side, you will get burnt out. If you stay forever on the advocacy side, you don't get enough of real understanding what is going on.
Yeah.
Right. So people, I think, should allow themselves to recognize where they are and be honest about that too. And I think in the art world is a similar thing. So you have the spectrum of what you can choose to do. Now, if you choose to be somebody who sees your art as completely unrelated to things political, and of course I don't mean like party politics, I think things about reproductive justice, things about post-colonialism and liberation, and all of these things, rights and human rights and so on. If you choose to not see how connected it is, that for me is an unfortunate thing for you. And you I think may have some waking up to do. I know it sounds judgmental, but you do have some waking up to do, because the truth of the matter is, what I want to believe, the truth of the matter is that art changes things and art changes people. That is the truth of it.
I have a question for all of us. Okay, so when we look at our history as Jamaicans, as a country and stuff, and you look at the things that people have done for causes, the way people have organized and brought communities together. When you think of something as like dub poetry, which is activism, a lot of it. Reggae in the early days, and probably slightly, maybe it's kind of now, but definitely more in the early days. Activism. I don't see as much of that now in Jamaica, and it feels like people are either complacent, or they're tired, or they're lazy, or they're afraid, or I don't know. But do you feel that fire that we see, and maybe looking at in hindsight, because things are written in chapters in history books and stuff, we can go, oh, this is important, and that maybe at the time it wasn't quite like that. But do you feel now that there is that same energy amongst people? I mean, it wouldn't be the whole population, clearly, but amongst different people in the country.
I kind of feel like it rotates, I feel like it rotates between and among the forms, not just the forms, but the disciplines. So, like, at one point in time, it was the music that was carrying that charge. I think now, in a lot of ways, it's dance. Dance is carrying that charge, and also visual art. I spoke to an artist recently, Kyle Gooden, and his work was just so brilliantly speaking activism without him beating anybody over the head with it. But he was such his philosophy, his art philosophy of why he's doing what he's doing, and how process driven it was, how thoughtful it was, how conscious it was, how interrogative of our history and our blackness, our identity, and all of these things. I was just saying, wow, really good stuff. And so I know that visual arts in a lot of ways is carrying dance, is carrying that. I think drama used to carry, so I think it was wavering at one point in time between the dramatists, the theater people, and the musicians. It's the visual artists and the dancers, I think.
I have to, I really have to, in as much as I have all these complaints about the place where I've spent a lot of time. Edamali College does something for those who want something done. Meaning, as a student, you are encouraged, if you are so interested, particularly at School of Dance, to do some deep diving to figure out who it is that you are and what it is that is concerning you. And usually those things are related to political ideas. Those things, those things are related to the concerns of the time. And then out of that, now they're encouraged to be able to use their art to speak about those things. If it's one thing about that college, it does not say to you, you cannot make art about that. I don't think anybody has ever been prevented from making art about anything that is, as long as they go through the process and do the interrogation and are able to say, this is how I felt about it. This is the research I did. This is the objectivity, but this is the subjectivity all together. And what we have found as well at dance school is that, especially when the times are rough within the country, oh, the choreography is dark. Oh, they get the kids, I want to say the babies, like Dr. G did, babies. They don't know how to process the things. And so all of the pieces are just kind of like, morose and so on. But they're talking about very important kinds of things, about mental health, so they themselves are experiencing activism on stage without us saying, you need to use the art and talk about this. It is by virtue of processing these complexities of being human. That's what it is. I think we are trying to figure out this human thing, and we're trying to figure out how to make the inequities not so inequitable, and how to talk about the things that are troubling us. We are acknowledging the fact that there are things that are troubling us. We're not going la 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 la, butterflies every day. It happens some days, but there are some days when we think about, oh my God, the caterpillar has to die for the butterfly to be born. We also acknowledge those realities, and those things come out. And the art does allow for that to happen. And I think the more of us allow ourselves to make art from that place too, will allow for the audience to be able to do that. Because remember, we are trying to reflect to them the parts of themselves that they don't necessarily want to look at. So I know for sure that process helps allow, and I'm visual artist as well. The music ones, I'm not so sure, because I think they're resistant. But I haven't heard them make anything that says to me that they're thinking about the realities of life. Yeah.
What I like is that art facilitates different ways of looking at things that are, even the things that are so terminally, pathologically wrong with our society and with our world, and with how we, how we deal with ourselves and each other as human beings, is we can make it light and still impactful, and we can make it dark and still impactful. There's power in that, and that is what makes us artists. We get to choose the medium, we get to choose the form, we get to choose the expression, we get to choose how we share what we see, what we believe, and our philosophical leanings come through us as artists in our creativity, and we get to choose how we express it. It can be entertaining and artistic. Sometimes people like to think that it's either artistic or it's entertaining. It can be entertaining and artistic, and it can also be artistic and not entertaining. But it is still valuable, and I think the most important thing for me is that we and I think that's what you're saying as well, Neila, we give permission to people to do the art that they want to do. If you want to do dark art, you have that right, because there's somebody who's going to do something else. If you want to do something that is it's burning in your soul in a particular way, and the only way you can express it is through something that is painful for people to watch, then do it. But if you want to take that same material, that same issue, that same thing that everybody's dealing with, and you want to make people laugh about it because you think that that's a kind of impact, or what will have greater impact, then by all means do it that way. So that's how I look at it.
Having spent 15, 16 years at the music school, Neila, I can probably speak to my experience with there. And I think there's two things. I think when we can look up the final year shows maybe. that when they're doing those shows, the idea is more about being commercial
Right.
than about expressing my art necessarily. And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways the culture there, and I mean somebody might want to beat me for this, but the culture there is kind of like a you know, a high school football. You know, it's like a jock thing where you don't want to get too you don't want to get too vulnerable and too deep, and
This surface.
it's very surface. So you don't get those kind of explorations, even though they might have examples of it. You know, from the people, I'm sure with the stuff that I have performed there is examples of being vulnerable and being open, and with other teachers there and other teachers on the campus. You know, but even so, the you know, that is not the the driving force for them necessarily.
Yeah.
Who is there? Is there, Michael had mentioned one person, artist. Is there somebody that you are seeing now, Neila, who is like a younger artist or a, you know, a new artist? I don't really care about the age, but who is being an activist and who is in and maybe in their own way, and it could be in an obvious way or a less obvious way. But is there somebody that you can call out who you?
I mean, there might be too many. I find that there, because you see, for me, activism also just means that your politics and your art are very closely linked. So me, for example, I'm a womanist. There's no doubt about it. So everything I do is going to come from that womanist lens. Not to say that I bash men and masculinity, but I'm going to critique patriarchy. There's no question about it. I'm Black. I'm going to critique white cis hetero patriarchy, no matter what it is I'm doing. I'm not loving it up, right? That's a standard for me. And I know a number of people also who have that and then make work on top of that or make work through that. There are quite a few poets. I don't know their names necessarily, but like younger poets, queer poets who use their poetry to speak to the queer experience in the Caribbean. I haven't heard many musicians who may do that. But I do find in terms of like women's politics and the politics around womanhood and reproductive, not even reproductive rights so much because that's so touchy, but at least the strength of women and the kind of leveling the playing field. We in Jamaica had a number of women artists in particular who push that forward because that's also their life and their personal politics, right? So they may not look like activists, but you have your Tanya Stevens and you have your Bad Girl Cecile, just by virtue of being themselves, are already being activists because they are thriving and singing. They're singing themselves.
So there are people. There might be people also, because I think sometimes maybe we don't look at it that way, but even on TikTok and IG, there's a term called like subvertisements, which is kind of subversive advertisements. I think some kinds of satire and stuff might be included in that, and there's quite a few of that going on as well among Jamaican content creators and nationally, I think. And I think in some ways, when they're critiquing things that are happening in the news or in the society, with that sense of humor or with the satire that some people get and some people won't get, but it's still kind of a form of activism, I would say.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think the thing is, like, it's so hard sometimes to be easy. You know, I know some artists who are just like, yo, you need to have a position. Have a position. You must have a position on this thing. This current information. What's your position on it? And then there's some people who are just like, no, you know what? In order to be an artist, I need to remain neutral and open to all kinds of positions, which I sometimes think is spiritual bypassing. But anyway, like, no, they don't feel anything. It's all love, you know, there's that. But I mean, I cannot help feeling that, and I mean, everybody's story is different. If you can't face yourself, then I guess you won't have a position about things. Having a position is too touchy, vulnerable, dangerous for you, and people have different dangers that I don't know about, right? External dangers. Having a position might remind them of when they were unsafe in life. Not a problem, then don't have a position. But I would
might make them feel like their relationship is
things
unsafe. their political ambitions are unsafe. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah.
So if that is the case, far be it from me to say have a position. I can't do that. But if you have, I would say maybe the privilege of the experience of not having that relationship with having a position, maybe sometimes I would ask people to consider having a position or consider the position that they're already having. Consider what agenda they're already pushing by virtue of the kinds of things that they are creating,
Yes.
and consider that they could make a different decision if
Mhm.
they wanted to. And
Yeah,
I leave it there.
I would say, because you just raised something for me now, and what I would say is that an artist is aware of his or her
There.
their position.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. I think not necessarily that they are wearing it on their forehead.
Mm-hmm.
They're aware of it, and so they are not sharing creative work uncritically. They're not sharing stuff that is not has not passed through a filter in their mind, a process in their mind that says this is what I believe, and so I am not going to do harm. You understand? And so that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So you both know that I have this position on have this position on the myth of race and all that stuff. And so the stuff that I do share, even though I might not say, this is what I'm doing, the stuff that I will share and stuff that I won't share are both informed by that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff that have to do with it, and I think because both of you know me so well, you can acknowledge that and say that. But not everybody's gonna know that. Not everybody's gonna understand my position until at some point where I go, okay, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I think.
Right.
You know? So yeah, there are times when you are trying to gauge the right time to declare
And the audience.
and the right audience, yeah, you can declare those things, and sometimes you might never find that right audience.
I think of because what you were saying, Holgate, in terms of you know yourself. I really think that true art processes are such mirrors. The kind of excavation that you generally have to do to be able to bring forth that gem.
Mm-hmm.
You come face to face with yourself in so many ways, in so many versions of yourself as well. I don't know if somebody can call themselves an artist and really say that they don't have a position on things. They might have a position, but they're afraid to say it, or they're gauging whether or not they should for whatever reason. But they can't tell me. Like, I don't know if somebody can tell me, say them as an artist don't know. They don't have a position on things.
I think for me, I think that they can have once you have an intention. So no, once there's a forward motion in the direction of exploration or critical analysis or investigation, once there's that, then you can start calling yourself an artist.
Yeah.
Knowing it and solidifying it is not necessarily what makes you an artist, but once you start on a journey, you've taken a position. Once you start on a journey, you've taken a position. So it doesn't mean that you are fully here or fully there, but you've taken a position. Your first position is that I believe that this is something worth saying or worth dealing with. And that's what an artist does. An artist starts on that journey. And then if you're here, you must have you must have be 20% somewhere or 80% somewhere, or you reach 30, or it's 50-50, but it's still a position. So that's where I'm agreeing with you 100% that you can't not have a position and be saying that you're an artist. There is something in your craw around this particular issue.
Because yes, the thing is, one wonderful thing about this artist path that I really do love and hate is that I cannot walk around not examining myself. I don't think any artist's life is an unexamined life. Any artist at all. Because even if you're saying, okay, you're doing pop music, you're examining life, you're examining what you're seeing in order to create the lyrics, right? Even if you might,
and the best pop artists are examining it even more than anyone else. Yeah,
right, exactly. So to think that you can just move through neutrally, it means that you're not being honest with yourself, because you already have started on the journey. You already have to examine your life and your ways and people around you. You have to do examination in order to be able to express the things that you say you're expressing, because you're an artist, right? So there's that. I think becoming a more deliberate activist now, or advocate through your art, is another unfolding that people can choose to do. And I think I think for me, when it happened, it is because there's something that I already feel passionately about that needs some extra awareness or extra energy underneath it. And I think I am the one who is able to do it. Or I cannot sit down in myself and know that I could make a difference and not do it. Or, you know what I mean? Like, because for me, adding my art to something is adding my physical and spiritual energy to it. You know, so if there's a truth that I would like to be promulgated, or if there's a lie that I would like to be stamped out, and I feel really passionate about it, I am going to put my art underneath that. So, for example, gender-based violence, me no deal with it at all. And I've done a few works that have to do with gender-based violence in terms of at least bringing it to a particular audience who may not have experienced someone dancing about it in this way or choreograph about it in this way. So some people might think it might be hitting over the head, but there are times when it is necessary to hit over the head because people have been ignoring it for too long. You know, there's shades and textures to the kind of activism that I'm involved in. And some people may say I'm not an activist at all because I'm not organizing people, or I'm not out there on the front line making.
I don't think anybody on the face of the earth would ever say Neila Ebanks is not an activist.
I don't know, because the thing is, because I've done that before too. And also, if even in those situations when you are protesting, the most successful protests are the ones that have the drums, is the ones that have the chants, the ones that have the music that go along with it, because that helps to kind of unify people also. Yes, it brings everybody under the same kind of frequency. So there is a role that the art has to play in being able to bring certain things that have been hidden, that need to be brought out and adjusted and made more equitable. And me, I just can't speak for myself. I know my positionalities, and where necessary, when I am led to, will become very vocal about certain ones, and I may not be vocal about certain other ones. Don't judge myself for it either.
Same.
It's a time. But there are certain kind of standard things that work along with my personal politics.
And it's not everything. I'm saying the same thing as you are, Neila, and I'm saying it's not everything that I feel strongly about that will show up in my work.
Right.
Because there are certain things that I feel so strongly about, but I don't feel competent to talk about it.
Okay, yes, that's a thing.
I don't feel enough. Sometimes I may not feel enough courage to deal with this yet. Right. You know, I don't feel that my audience is ready to deal with that, plus what I'm dealing with. And so my larger agenda is here. Let me deal with this because I don't want this to become a distraction from that. There's so many reasons why, you know, so sometimes, so it's not everything that I believe strongly comes out in my art.
So another question for you guys. I feel like I'm the interviewer.
Yes, Michael.
So you're all, we are all multi-potentialites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are there different art forms or outlets that you use as activism for different things, and some things not?
I think for it depends on what the concept needs to express itself. What does the concept say to me that it needs? Does it need choreography? Does it need to be expressed through movement on a stage? Does it need to be in a site specific way? Does it need to be some kind of video? Does it need to be a photograph? Like, what does it say? I have to listen to what the message is. When I was making last year's work for DanceWorks, Land We Love, it didn't just start there. I had an idea before about the way that our green spaces were being taken over by construction and what that meant about Jamaica. And then all sorts of other things started to happen in terms of understanding how indigeneity has been trampled on by colonialism, especially through the taking of land and all of that kind of stuff, and how much blood there is on the lands around the world because of that. And then what sparked it now in terms of it becoming choreography was the particular incidents last year in Clifton, where Jamaican citizens' houses that they had started building got demolished by the government. And I started to really pay attention to the news stories around that and how things had been spun. And I said, this wants to be movement, but it can't just be movement. It needs to have imagery so people can see the demolition and they can see certain kinds of things. And then I said, or I was told, it needs to also have the actual voices of the people who have been speaking in the news about this. So we can make the connection between the abstraction that I am doing choreographically, because I have to do the abstraction for it to be choreography. It can't just be like, come and knock. Postmodern would have built a wall and knock it down, right? I mean, which is its own thing. But I was working in a contemporary genre, so it's more abstract, and people will miss it. And it's such an important message because of what was happening at the time, and it was being spun in such a certain way in the news. I said, no man, these elements have to come together in this physical way for it to be for it to come across and hit people. So when the person is actually talking on the news about the fact that $800,000 to save up and get to the person and the wrong person and them knock down the house now and she don't have no money for us. When that is going on, you need to see the dancer crying. You need to see the dancer holding out. You need to see the shape layered on top of that. Oh, I'm getting gooses in order to feel it. So it really depends on how I'm being spoken to by the concept in terms of what, even the soundtrack. Okay, so it had to have construction sounds. It needed to have some stuff that was Bob Marley related. I needed a live voice, and so all of those things started to be woven into it for it to be able to have the impact on the different levels. That people, because it was topical and people had positions about it, but I wanted to move through those positions so that it could actually help to see and feel what it was really, really going on in those situations. Yeah.
What I'm listening to and enjoying is the processing of your process, and I'm enjoying listening to that and hearing how you make art, and reveling in the fact that an artist has a process. An artist has a process. An artist don't just wake up and say splash 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 something on a wall and it's art. Unless that is a deliberate process. But deliberateness, that kind of it's the processing of something that gives it that that thing that we can say, that's there. The need for us to interpret something is what is a trigger for art as well. We want to give people some food to eat that is not
meaning.
What about you, Mike? Is there anything that comes out in a particular way for one thing, and other things come out in a different way?
Ask it specifically. Say it again, Mike.
So in terms of your, I mean, and it can go beyond the activism, but is it some whatever issues that you want to bring about if you are doing that? Are there some issues that want to come out in one type of expression, artistic expression, and others that don't and want to come out in a different way, or is it just whatever you decide?
Let me see. If I'm doing something related to blackness and consciousness, I tend to want to do a play. I tend to want to use words. I tend to want to use music, and even when I use dance, it is facilitating the music and the words, whether it's spoken word or song. But I tend to want to do a play when I'm doing anything around blackness, and because I think people need to hear words, because we use words so much to beat people down, to cow people down around blackness, and I think so we need words to reinforce and to cut out what has been reinforced negatively. So if I'm doing something related to reproductive health and sexuality, I think that I think I go to song.
So,
I think I go to song if I'm doing something reproductive health and sexuality. And if I'm doing something that is, when do I do dance? That's what I should think about. When do I go to dance? When do I go to dance?
while you think about that, I just want to say this. So you premiered a work last weekend or weekend before,
Oh, yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I challenge you because you do not only deal with blackness and consciousness in with words,
True.
in your choreography, in your choices of vocabulary, in your underlying messages.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
deal with very serious issues, and particularly in terms of It's All Us. What I had said to the dancers in the notes one time is almost like you are subverting and reimagining Middle Passage movement.
Absolutely.
Wow.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I had to stop and think about when do I go to dance for training, because
Yes.
absolutely, and I refuse. One of the things that I hate is that when people think that if you're doing more contemporary dance, if you're doing something for now, it has to be pointed feet and arabesque and attitude and jeté and enlevé and all of those things. I hate when you feel that way. I want to show that because I deliberately, because even it's why Neila, you read me up in other dance of the show. Even the costuming, because when they came to me with the costuming, they say, Michael, because I'm not a costume type of person.
Right.
But they say, we have some bongo pants, and I said, I don't want bongo pants. I don't want bongo pants. The regular bongo pants, because they ended up using something that was kind of like a bongo pants.
Yeah,
But I didn't want the regular bongo pants, and so because I didn't want it to feel like it was a folk dance, even though I want it to be. So the folk is expressing to us even now the blackness, the consciousness, the identity of who we are. It's coming through in the Afrobeat, it's coming through in the reggae, it's coming through in the dancehall, and we can use all of that as vocabulary for modern contemporary dance. So yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's a joyousness, and in terms of like the dynamic, because of the vocabulary choices that you made, the dynamic was always up. It was always on the up. It was a celebration, and because you were moving the bodies together in a particular way, and they were joyously moving together, I was like, look at that people moving together, making a choice to do it, not being stolen from one place to another, pausing to dance right where they are and moving along. Look at that.
Yeah.
And that is a statement.
And saying it's all us.
Exactly. All of it.
All of it is us. Yeah.
So I would say, since I can see both sides, I would say that you also use dance.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you speak about, because for you, importance of blackness and consciousness and identity and self-knowledge and self-love for us as Caribbean citizens, because that is a part of who you are, that you are aware of and excited about and so on. It goes through everything. So even if you are working with the reproductive health through song, best believe the choices of melody, the choices of speak, will also have that understanding of supporting blackness in there.
Yeah.
And
classical. It's because something, I feel like something saved me. And it's interesting now, you trigger me, Neila. Boy, I'm just remembering there's a class that and I see this guy all the while. He's now at the Edna College. I see him. He's a very tall guy, and he wears his berets and stuff like that. I think Armin Ryan call himself, I think.
No man, there's African and there's
and the one who always walk with African, the brown one with the tall brown one. He was my art teacher at Wolmer's.
He was
my art teacher at Wolmer's, and he introduced me to blackness, the consciousness, identity. that man would give me tapes, cassette tapes at the time with Joseph Ben Yochanan.
All right, in a high school.
In high school, this was in sixth form. And I would listen over and over to these tapes, and I was just like, my God, I'd never heard anything like that. And then he also invited me. So this is activism and how the birthplace of my activism. He invited me to halfway tree on numerous occasions, and because they used to stand at the back of halfway tree, in the park, at the back section there, and what they would do sometimes is that, the pictures that we have of Jesus, with the white Jesus with a crown and stuff like that, they put it on the ground. They put it on the ground, so people would have to, as they're walking on the back, and they have to walk over it, and just see people skipping to, not step on the face of Jesus and stuff like that, the white Jesus, and then he would engage them and ask them questions. Why are you doing that? Why are you walking around? So that was the birthplace of my activism, my artivism, and I'm grateful to him. And all of that is why I am so interested and invested and committed to the whole idea of art as activism, especially around issues of Blackness. And as you say, it comes true in everything we do, whether or not I'm singing. Neila, you draw me out. Thank you.
I want to also say, like, with You're Welcome, with Land We Love, for me, that wasn't really activism, that was more advocacy. Because I wasn't out in the field, I wasn't getting, research from them. I wasn't saying, okay, I'm gonna pay for your lawyer fees. I wasn't doing that. For me, that in the situation is real activism, right? It was more advocacy because I acknowledge my removal from the situation. I acknowledge the fact that I learned about this through media, and I'm also using media to talk about it as well, to try to explore and explicate a little bit more. So yeah, there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Sure. I didn't put anything on the line necessarily. To be honest with you, I didn't really care about reputation. I was just like, yo, I'm gonna say this. So I wasn't putting anything. I don't think I was risking as much as an activist would have been risking. Like, activists would have been in parliament, performing the piece outside there or something. That's a different.
It's it's interesting for me in something that you just said, is that I find that I don't care so much that people see through to my political ideas or my activism or my advocacy or what matters to me and how strongly I'm putting it. If I'm talking about reparations or Blackness, I'm talking about reproductive health, whatever. I don't mind that people see that directly. I think what happens is, as an artist, what happens to me as a creative is like, is this working for them? Meaning, is it getting? I want them to get it. That is what disturbs my sleep, if for want of a better term. I want people to get it. I want people to, I want them to understand what it is that I want them to see. I want them to, if I want it to be funny, I want them to find it funny. I want them to, if I want them for ball, I want them for ball, like, in that moment. So that is the thing that affects me in terms of the gaze of the audience, in terms of their look, they're paying attention to what it is that I'm doing. Not I could have, no matter how even radical a point of view I have, it doesn't. I don't mind sharing it. I don't mind sharing it. I just want to know that how I'm sharing it works for the audience. That's usually my thing.
Yeah, I tend to not care so much if it works for the audience. Don't say yes, Mike.
I know. I know. That's such a good team.
Yeah, I want them to investigate. I want them to go on their journey. But what I'm giving you, go on the journey and find out what it means for you. It doesn't. They don't even have to know what it means for me. But they're gonna find out something, what it means for them on that journey, and that is kind of, I think, for the most part, how I operate, I guess, as far as I can remember. I think
yes. As far as I can remember too.
I think like with the songs and stuff that I write tend to be addressing things that are very personal to me. Like the songs that I've written, mind you, but even the folk things are slightly different. It's not always personal to me. In a sense, it is, but it's not me. It's not about me. But it's also a position about the importance of our culture and about the importance of the multicultural barbecue, as you would like to say.
I was going to say that's your hill.
That's the hill that I'm willing to die on. So but also the I think in other ways, apart from the music and stuff, though, and this might not, maybe this isn't even art, or maybe it hasn't come out in art as yet. It is that there is no culture, no culture, no ethnicity, no nothing that is above another. That is another hill I'm willing to die on. That we really are all one, and coming from one place, coming originally from Africa, but everything that has become after that, it's there's nobody more important than the other, and that's one of the things that maybe, I don't know if it has come out. You'd have to tell me if you know if it has come out in anything that I've done. I don't think it has. But
I think it has come out in the influences that we hear coming through your music. So that you will have fiddles, music that sounds Eastern. You will have kumina drums. You are using them, weaving in a particular tapestry where nothing is stronger than the other.
Yeah.
I think that happens when I hear the music that you make.
That's the beauty of it for me. How I think what you just said is what, when I listen to which one that is Mountain. Yeah. And the kumina drums are so prominent. The same thing, the violin is prominent.
Violin is prominent.
Or is it the violin, or is it what is it? What's that instrument? The viola, right? And then there's the
right.
Where's that from?
That's Irish, I guess. It could be Irish, African. I'm not sure.
And so they're not, but they fit so comfortably in the song, fit so comfortably in my ear, in my space, because they fit so comfortably in your mind.
Oh, yes.
And so it's really saying that your philosophy really is sound because it works as art, and it comes across,
Love that. Your philosophy is sound because it works as art.
Oh. Hopefully that's gonna be one of the quotes.
Very quotable. Yeah. There's something to be said, right, for art and mystery. There's something to be said for shrouding process, which a lot of times nowadays we don't do because we're encouraged to share our process on social media so that people will be interested or whatever. I'm not 100% about that. I try sometimes, but if I focus on the sharing so much, then I don't get to actually focus on the making. And I think even in terms of advocacy and artism and making art, the balancing of that is a similar kind of thing. For me, I have to have a certain amount of closed bubbleness, mystery as I am making the work, and then as it unfolds, maybe then you will see the activism coming out. But I'm not going to be the one to say on the Instagram post, do you agree with the breaking down of the houses in Clifton if you don't come and watch this dance?
Right,
no.
right.
You know what I mean? No, there has to be a certain, you have to allow the thing to cook and morph and shape, and then you allow it to come forward, and then it will reach the arms of and the hearts and the eyes of who it's supposed to reach. I think especially in this age of everything just being skin out for everybody to see, because it's really like life just skin out right now, honestly. That art depends on a level of mystery too, and a level of secrecy too. And I do respect artists also who say, I'm not gonna tell you everything about this. I have a friend who's a painter. He's like, yeah, that's one of the reasons why they be famous the first time when we did them critique, because I didn't want to tell them. I never have no artist statement. I say the art, see, that's what you need to talk for itself. What do you get from it? I know the lecturer don't like that, right? So, but I mean, his work is great. And there's so much you can see in and from it too. And if you can get to have a talk with the artist, even better. There's a place for that too, in terms of it being able to awaken you. There's a mystery is very important, but we have to also learn how to, because I go back and forth, learn how to give a little bit more so that people will be interested in the mystery too. You know what I mean? We don't keep them completely shut out. What is that balance?
Yeah.
Even
It's just
with
like how Quentin Tarantino said that he doesn't tell anybody ever what the meaning of the names of the show is. And say, you guess, you get to guess, you get to guess, you get to guess. And it's
right.
interesting for him to hear what you think it means, because you bring your interpretation that you've brought to the piece is not wrong. It's not wrong. Your interpretation of the meaning and what you get from it, it's not wrong just because I'm the person who has presented this to you.
Yeah.
I'm presenting from a space, and this is me talking about how I understand it now. But you're presenting from a space of a world of ideas and stuff like that. Maybe again, the whether the artist is always fully conscious of what he's doing or she's doing, is that, maybe you're presenting something from a certain space and you're not conscious of it, but somebody can tap into that thing because they're also from that space, or they're not from that space, but they can tap into it and recognize something that you as artists not conscious that you're sending. You know what I mean? And so the naming necessarily, and the explaining of your art is not a necessity in my book.
Do you think that your art has as many interpretations as there are people who watch it, meaning, or see it, meaning like each and every interpretation is valid? So you make one thing, but you really made a million things because a million people are going to see it.
I like that.
Each way is a different valid way of seeing it.
Yeah, I like how that sounds. I never thought about it that way exactly. I mean, along those lines, but no, but yeah. I like how it sounds, and it makes a lot of sense.
It's kind of like with physics. I don't know if is it quantum entanglement they call it. I don't know if that's what they really call it, but like where particles may change their behavior based upon being observed.
Always change the behavior just based on observing.
Yeah, so your work does change based upon who is. I mean, when you really think about it, what is within the create a cool piece to do? When somebody's watching a piece of choreography, let us say you have 120 eyes in front of you. Each of those eyes is not looking at the same thing at the same time. Even if you choreograph for them to be looking over there, they might be looking somewhere else. And so that in itself is a different work. Because when you choreograph them to look at the hand, they're looking at these two people over on that side. And so the work really changes according to how somebody is able to, where they're choosing to look and what it is that they're saying. And the artist can't be in control of all of that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and so so art is also an act of co-creation.
Yeah, it is an act of co-creation.
Yeah.
I was thinking that in terms of the activism and advocacy that is possible through art, things being hidden are not necessarily bad. I think of, I don't want to call his name, but anyway, Bill Cosby, Anyway, Mr. Cosby, I think about the Cosby Show and what it did for Black Americans seeing themselves in a positive light on television. And I remember reading that every piece of artwork that you saw in the Huxtable House was from an African American artist. So the focus on jazz music. So there's a way of scripting and all of that kind of stuff was giving you that milieu to make you understand the importance of this to the makers without hitting you over the head with it, right? And I also think that in terms of if we have a politics that's really important to us, other things can, like what Prince would do, other things can line up with that as well. So people may not know it, but based upon who you hire, they will know it. Right? Based upon what quotas for hiring, if you're a womanist but you're only hiring men, are you really a womanist?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because yes, people talk, well, we're just going with merit, but we have to also understand.
And if you're a womanist and you're only hiring women.
Right. Also, like, are you really, unless that is a particular thing of your organization. So, if you are LGBTQ plus ally, but you don't hire anybody, you don't cast people who are queer, how are you lining up? So you can actually make some very specific budget decisions and business decisions that allow your activism to come through too, and your advocacy to come through too, and to make work that celebrates what it is that you feel deeply inside.
have a one question. I mean, we're at the little over the hour. I have a one question. Boy, I love the question them.
Oh.
So, is there anything, any issue, any cause, either locally or international, that you are not a part of, that you think you, even if you might not, that you think you could be, your involvement or your artistry could benefit?
Could help the situation, you mean?
Yes, or to help the cause, or to help the movement, or whatever.
That we're not already doing.
Yes, that you're not already doing.
We're not already doing.
Because I'm trying to think like thematically too, and not incident for incident or
Right.
thing for thing, right?
Okay.
I don't know. I think the work that I do at least wants to be, or thinks that it is, plugged into issues of inequity and issues of fairness and human rights.
Yeah.
And justice and freedoms and autonomy of body, like all of those kinds of things, I think are already within the work that I do and continue to be in the work that I do. I don't know if it's a particular cause. I mean, in terms of the genocide in Gaza,
right? Yes,
there is that, but there's also the genocide in Sudan. What's happening in the Congo, and particularly I think because we are in this moment of seeing the things that have been happening, the violences and so on, and it is inundating. It's overwhelming because we're not meant to see all of it and know about all of it all at the same time. I think one of the most helpful things to do is to amplify, I think, maybe the voices of those who are actually directly there too. And just to make sure that you're pushing the information so that people get to really see what's happening from those who are on the ground as the activists.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't, unless I am, like the other day, I was moved to crochet some watermelon slices, right? On some earrings and stuff like that and whatever. I posted some of that, but it's not like I'm saying I'm an activist. Like,
exactly. Right.
You know, and I would have gone to the march if it wasn't, you know, home situation and stuff, just to be there present. But I can't say that I have not been called to make a work about it, and I wouldn't force it.
Exactly.
I do make other works about the importance of equity and busting down the patriarchy, the white heteropatriarchy.
So for me, my passion around Blackness and identity is so strong that it was very difficult for me a while ago. I'm like, is there something else? Like, is there something else? Like, really? And I'm saying, it's so strong because I'm just like, some of the things that I notice and pay attention, I'm just like, how is it that the entire world doesn't see how wrong this is? How is it that why is this? Why am I even still allowed to say this as if it is something new about how Black people are treated, or you know? But then I really delved a little bit deep. I say it's food and health and the health. I don't call it health. The criminal medical system that poisons us and then gets us to pay to unpoison ourselves while poisoning us for something else, and we pay money, you know, consistently paying money to people who are giving us things that are poisonous to our bodies, our beings, and tricking us into thinking that it is healing us, when really and truly they know, because the research shows that it's not. And so I don't want to talk about any specific poison, and I do believe that doctors are extremely important, and there are pharmaceuticals that I imagine have value, and yes, there are those which have value, but I think that if there's anything that I think my work could or should, or I would hope it would contribute to, if I ever move away from my obsession, would be along those lines, looking at how the health system is not healthy at all.
No, but but it's not separate.
Exactly.
Because inequities also present themselves because of violence against people of color, and Black people in particular.
So it's the same thing with that you were saying, Neila, about the thing with Palestine. And I mean, it's, you can say it's not your fight, but it is, but also you are not the person on the ground. And so I guess what you're doing, I'm sharing the stuff from other people, because that's what I can do. And but I think even all of the things that you mentioned, the both of you, and this Palestinian thing as well, is there's a bigger thing, which is like an insidious dishonesty and an imbalance of power.
Very much
the way the power is wielded, and for me that is a thing that I feel like I need to express something about, but I don't know how to come out yet. But it's we all been observing it for years, and between last year and this year, more than ever, the truth is coming out about so much stuff that we didn't know about, that we people had said, and we go, oh, that can't be true, but oh my God, it's true. All these things about how much our lives and they and have been shaped by a couple of people or a few people, a few selfish people, all of our lives, not just Jamaica, not just the global South, everybody has been shaped by these few greedy people who are just out for themselves. And that is nuts. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
I hear a song, Mike. I hear a song.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I mean, it may not even have words.
Yeah.
It's playing.
Well, I feel like we reached the end. It's a heavy end.
I mean,
it was
here. I wanted to say something. There's a well, she has died. But cultural worker, artist, filmmaker, activist from the States of Black America, and her name is Toni Cade Bambara. And I've been reading it. It's been doing the rounds. A quotation that she said: "The job of the artist, or the work of the artist, is to make the revolution irresistible."
I like that.
I love that.
It's so much for me. Whatever the revolution is, whatever the new thought that is necessary, whatever the vision is, whatever the progressiveness is to make that irresistible, to make awakening irresistible, to make community irresistible. Like
make Black consciousness
irresistible
to Black people.
Black people.
And human rights irresistible to all people.
All people.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Neila.
You're welcome. I did my little research.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's it. We're with that. So we're here. This was nice. I love it.
It was really nice. A powerful one. Really.
I hope we get some feedback about this one. People, please.
What you gotta say, even if it's
if we just drop your WhatsApp.
Even if you disagree with what we said,
we just attack.
We disagree with each other. So
right, exactly. It doesn't matter. Agree, disagree,
Exactly.
All opinions contend.
All ideas contend, yeah.
All ideas contend in this most.
Yes.
And I'm gonna promise you say all, but
most ideas.
Most. Yeah.
All right. Love on them.
All right, love on them.
Time.
Later.